Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kapijana Vallabha Girivaratari Kapijana Vallabha Girivaratari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Paramahamsa Parivarikachoy Ashtadrishota Shishamad Mr. My Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimadbhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. I think you could get the book, Glenn, please. Should be in the audio closet. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Thanks. Canto 4, titled Creation of the Fourth Order. Chapter 11, Swayambhuva Manu advises Dhruva Maharaj. We're on text 32. Yeno pashistat purusao Loka udvijate brisham Nabudas tadvasham gachad ched Ichan abhayam atmanaha Ino pasishtat purushav Loka udvijate brisham Nabudas tadvisham gached Ichan abhayam atmanaha Yena pasishtat purushav Loka udvijate brisham Nabudas tadvisham gached Ichan abhayam atmanaha. Please chant. Loka ud vijate brisham. Nabudas tadvrisham gached. Chan abhayamat manaha. Yena pashita pusha. Loka ud vijate brisham. Okay. Word by word translation. Please repeat. Yena, by which. Upashishtat, being overwhelmed. Purushat, by the person. Lokaha, everyone. Udvijate, becomes terrified. Brisham, greatly. Na, never. Buddhaha, a learned person. Tat, of anger. Visham, under the control. Kachet, should go. Itchan, desiring. Abhayam, fearlessness. Liberation. Atmanaha, of the self. Okay, translation. A person who desires liberation from this material world should not fall under the control of anger, because when bewildered by anger, one becomes a source of dread for all others. Purport. A devotee or saintly person should not be dreadful to others, nor should anyone be a source of dread to him. If one treats others with non-enmity, then no one will become his enemy. There is the example, however, of Jesus Christ, who had enemies and they crucified him. The demoniac are always present and they find fault even in saintly persons. But a saintly person never becomes angry, even if there is a very great provocation. Alright, so I'll just read a few more. My dear Dhruva, you thought that the Yakshas killed your brother, and therefore you have killed great numbers of them. But by this action you have agitated the mind of Lord Shiva's brother Kuvera, who is the treasure of the demigods. Please note that your actions have been very disrespectful to Kuvera and Lord Shiva. Purport. Lord Manu stated that Dhruva Maharaj had been offensive to Lord Shiva and his brother Kuvera, because the Yakshas belonged to Kuvera's family. They were not ordinary persons. As such, they have been described as Punya Janan, pious men. Somehow or other, the mind of Kuvera had been agitated, and Dhruva Maharaj was advised to pacify him. Alright, 34. For this reason, my son, you should immediately pacify Kuvera with gentle words and prayers, and thus his wrath may not affect our family. Purport. In our common dealings, we should maintain friendship with everyone, and certainly with such exalted demigods as Kuvera. Our behavior should be such that no one should become angry and thereby commit a wrong to individuals, families, or society. 35. Thus Swayambhuva Manu, after giving instruction to Dhruva Maharaj, his grandson, received respectful obeisances from him. Then Lord Manu and the great sages went back to their respective homes. We thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 4th canto, 11th chapter of the srimadbhagavatam, entitled Swayambhuva Manu advises Dhruva Maharaj to stop fighting. Ganativanandasya Kananjana Shalakaya Chakshulanvaditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Kam Katitavachavan Pangam Langayate Girim Yakripantam Maham Vande Shri Gurun Diritanadam Vancha Kapladavishya Kripa Sindhaveva Chapatitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So it says we're not supposed to be a dread for others. That's the first purport. First verse and purport. So yeah, the Nectar of Instruction, Srila Rupa Goswami's book, advises that we control our different urges. So vacho vegam, manaso kroda vegam, jiva vegam, adapasta vegam, etan vegam, yo vishaheta dira sarvam epimam prativimsha shishyat. So the urges of the speech, of the tongue, of the belly, of the different senses, and it says urges of the mind, and also anger. It mentions anger. So we should control those. And that's what it means to be a Goswami. So go means senses, and Swami means master. So every devotee is meant to be a Goswami, not the opposite, which is Godas, which means servant of the senses. Now, of course, to find somebody who's an absolute Goswami means they have control of their senses like all the time. Then you could say that's quite advanced. And then to see someone who's a absolute Godas, I mean, they're pretty not advanced. And an absolute Godas is just one who's just like completely just whipped around, completely controlled, completely bamboozled by their mind and their senses at all times. From waking in the morning to going to sleep at night, they're just completely under the control of their senses. Of course, it's probably hard to find somebody who's like that. I mean, I don't know, maybe there's somebody in the world. Maybe there's a few people in the world, or maybe there's a lot of people in the world who are like that. But even them, they have some control. I mean, they have to. They can't just say, oh, well, my mind and my senses are not, they're telling me not to go to work today, so I'm just going to go and party. But they need to work so they could get the money so they could go to party. So even the Godases, they have some control of their senses. But it's for the end result of letting their senses run wild. So yeah, to find someone who's absolute Godas is very difficult. Absolute Goswami, that's also difficult. Because sometimes even the Goswamis, there's different levels of Goswamis, but sometimes they lose control of their senses, may. And of course, if they're on a high level of Goswami, they don't. But so in other words, it's not black and white. Just like within the general understanding of different levels of devotees, it says that there's the Kanishta Adhikari, there's a Madhyama Adhikari, and there's Uttama Adhikari. So the Kanishta Adhikari is, okay, they just see God in the temple, they don't know how to respect anybody, devotees or non-devotees, and very materialistic, but they're devotees. And then there's the Madhyama Adhikari, they see envious people who they avoid, they see devotees who they try to make friendships with, who they do make friendships with, and they see Krishna who they offer their love to, their service, and I think it was, yeah. And then there's Uttamadhikari, who sees Krishna everywhere. He cannot forget Krishna at any time. And they think everybody's a devotee besides himself. It's quite a high level. But even in these general categories, there's Kanishta. Means there's like, that's like the lowest. And then there's Madhyama Kanishta, and then there's Uttama Kanishta. There's different levels. There's Uttama like that. There's Madhyama. So there's different levels of these different devotees. So it can't just be black and white. But nonetheless, whatever the case is, we know what we're supposed to do, and we're supposed to be Goswamis. So, so that's the challenge, to become a Goswami. I remember one time, like many years ago, I was talking with Tirthamaj. We're in a car going to Harinam downtown, and somehow or other, I don't know why I was saying this, and I was spacing out or something, but I just told him it because we were talking about Goswami and all that, and he said, and I said, "Oh, I'd like to be a Goswami." And he said, "Oh, no, not like." He said, "You must become a Goswami." And then I don't know why, but I said it like another two times. Well, I'd like to become a Goswami. He said, "No, not like, you must." And I actually said it 3 times, and he's starting to get a little, probably a little irritated. I don't know why I was saying that, but I could have just heard him the first time. Yes, I must become a Goswami. So that's what Rupa Goswami is advising, that we become Goswamis, and that means tolerating the urges of the senses by the power of Krishna consciousness, by the power of Krishna. We're able to tolerate. We're able to transcend the urges or sublimate those desires for sense gratification by the power of Krishna consciousness. Just like prasadam. I mean, through the power of prasadam, people are able to give up food that is not supposed to be eaten. Like Prabhupada gave a whole list in the nectar of instruction, right? Meat, fish, egg, all these different things that people are just whipped around by, and we may think, oh well, it's not a big deal. Like, in other words, it's not such a success that I take prasadam every day. That is a big success, actually. That's a big success, to take prasadam every day. And what to speak if you just take prasadam? It's a big success, because people are being whipped around all over the city. I mean, there's all these restaurants. Why? Because people know they open these restaurants, and they invite people because people are attracted by their tongues, and then they empty out their wallet, or they take out their credit card, right? Which may be easier than emptying out all that cash. You just take out your card. You don't see all the cash go, right? You just see the card. It's like a So all over the city, all over the world, people are being whipped around by their tongue, by their senses, specifically the tongue. So if one could just take prasadam, that's actually a great success. And yeah, so Prabhupada goes on the speech. He goes the different senses, the belly, tongue, that we control. And Srila Prabhupada said that, it's not that, like I was just listening last night to a morning walk in Juhu, Bombay. Prabhupada was walking, he was talking with a few devotees, and Dr. Patel, and he was saying that, Krishna, he gave you eyes so that you could see him. It's not that sometimes, the senses are just causing me problems. But Srila Prabhupada said, no, Krishna gave you eyes so that you could see him. He gave you senses so that you could engage in his service. And he said, if you want to do otherwise, it's not Krishna's fault. He said, it's your fault. If you want to, Prabhupada said, go to the cinema, go to the movie, whatever, theater or something. It's not Krishna's fault. It's your fault. You want to do that. So it's an interesting point because, if we think about it, it's the senses aren't bad. It's not that we, like Prabhupada was saying, he said, we don't want to pluck out the eyes. Of course, we said, I was telling that story the other day with Bhagavan Thakur, he did that, but in general, devotees don't do that. Most of the devotees I know, they don't do that, pluck out their eyes. But they try to see the beauty of Krishna. So that's the idea, that Krishna gave us eyes, so we go see the deity. And Prabhupada was saying, but how many people are coming to come see the deity? Not so many people are coming. But that's not Krishna's fault. It's just, their own rebellion or whatever. So anger also, we don't say that it is absolutely evil. We say that it is good in certain circumstances. Of course, materially we should control it, material anger. But on another hand, Prabhupada said that like the Kshatriyas, the warriors who are supposed to protect the innocent, it's not that they could just be peaceful and not angry. They're supposed to be angry. And they're supposed to go chastise and punish the criminals. And Prabhupada gave the example of anger. He gave, there's two famous devotees. Prabhupada said that there's Arjuna, who fought on the battlefield of Kurukshetra for the Bhagavad Gita. And then there's Hanuman. It's not exactly a monkey, but kind of like a monkey, soldier of Lord Ramchandra. So these are the two famous people, the two famous devotees, Hanuman and Arjuna, who are known all over throughout India and now the world. So they became angry. So Prabhupada says that when offenses are towards ourselves, we should not become angry. We should be tolerant. We should be tolerant. We shouldn't let it bother us. But he said when somebody goes to attack Krishna or the devotees, then Prabhupada says the devotees should act like fire. So they should become angry. And there was this whole I've been thinking about this lately, but there's this whole Juhu, Bombay. It's so we have a temple there, and a spiritual master, when he was a brahmachari, young brahmachari there, he was staying there for many years and building up that temple. So there was this. It's a big long story, but one particular aspect of it is that these people really didn't want the temple to be built. The main man, Mr. Nair, he was trying to cheat Srila Prabhupada and the devotees out of the land. And he was actually quite a bad guy. If you read about him, or hear about him, he's actually quite a bad guy. And there's so many, and it became very clear to the devotees that he was absolutely trying to cheat them. And at one point, Mr. Nair, this was like kind of at the end of the battle for the land, which Srila Prabhupada won eventually. But Srila Prabhupada was talking with him, Mr. Nair, and Mr. Nair said, all along he was trying to be very cultured and very controlled, and with Srila Prabhupada, elderly Swami. But at this particular point, you could, in this meeting that they both were having, you could tell that Mr. Nair was getting really, he was just extremely angry. And then eventually he he let this out to Prabhupada, and he said, "Oh, I don't want to give you the land, this and that," and then Prabhupada asked the devotees to leave. So then the devotees left, and then the devotees heard Mr. Nair and Prabhupada shouting at each other in the room. And then Prabhupada said, "This isn't your land." He said, "This is Krishna's land," because Prabhupada put the deities there. He said, "This is Krishna's land." And then Mr. Nair said, "Oh, Krishna?" He said, "I'll break your Krishna." That's what he said. So that, I mean, he's an Indian guy, but yeah, that's what he said. Are you two leaving now?
Yeah.
Okay. I think he's going to get you some prasadam. So, if you just wait a minute. Okay, yeah, thank you. Okay, Hare Krishna. So he said, "I'll break her, Krishna." So, I mean, you can imagine, and he was like angry. He was shouting and just full of anger. So interesting enough is that while he came to that meeting, and this was a whole build-up, I mean, he was terrorizing devotees, like, left and right. And he was cutting electricity on the property, cutting the water. He would arrange, there's this guy who was like a coconut, he would cut coconuts. He would arrange that this guy would stand out there with his machete and brandish it while people were trying to come for the Sunday feast. I mean, he would do all this stuff to devotees. And all along, he was just trying to cheat them out of the land. He also, at one point, they sent police, a big squad of police, and like 50 policemen, and also these municipality people. So the municipality people, they came to destroy the temple. They destroyed the makeshift temple, and all the devotees were there. And then of course they're trying to stop the temple from being destroyed. So all the police threw them in the very roughly into the police wagon or whatever. So in other words, there's a big episode going on. So. But what happened is Mr. Nair, he was actually limping. He was limping, while he came to this meeting with Prabhupada. So then some time passed, and Mr. Nair, my spiritual master, was out there he's in Bombay, and he looked at this newspaper. He had to look at a newspaper. And then it said in big letters, his name was A.B. Nair died. The guy who was terrorized. Just after that thing happened, when you saw break the deed and all that. So he died. So then my spiritual master, he was the first one to see that newspaper. And then within himself, he felt some kind of like relief. And even, you could say, some joy that he did. And then he was thinking to himself, is this proper? Like, is this right? Like, is this how a Vaishnava is supposed to think? And he wasn't sure if he was correct or not. So he said, anyway, so then he went back to the temple and he told all the devotees. And all the devotees also felt relief and joy. So they're all kind of like milling around and kind of... So then they contacted Prabhupada, who was in Auckland, New Zealand. And Prabhupada was getting a massage from Shruti Kirti or whatever. And then they told Prabhupada that Mr. Nair died. And then Prabhupada, he put his hands over his head, like this. And he said, I was praying to Krishna that he would take care of that demon, that he would take care of Mr. Nair. So Prabhupada was also feeling that. And Srila Prabhupada said that he was terrorizing the devotees so much. He was just really causing them a lot of trouble. But in order to, shastrically to also add something to this from the scripture, is that the Bhagavatam says that when a snake, when a poisonous snake is killed, even saintly persons are happy. Like one time Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada's guru, was in Mayapur. He was on the balcony and he looked down and he saw a poisonous snake. And he immediately told the devotees, "Oh, kill it." So the devotees killed it, poisonous snake. Because snakes bite, and for no reason they'll just bite. So, and then Prabhupada was wondering about that, because Prabhupada saw it as a young man, and then Prabhupada read later in the Bhagavatam that even a saintly person's happy when a poisonous snake or serpent is killed. So yeah, devotees were happy about that, Mr. Nair. But on another point in relation to anger, devotees, when the temple was demolished, devotees were building a new one because they were trying to do it before they had to go to court and all this stuff. So in the process of building a new one, Mr. Nair's wife and a few other government people who were against the temple being put up, they went to the grounds, and one man said to the devotees who were building the temple, there was one devotee called Mr. Seti. This man told Mr. Seti that, "Oh, what are you doing?" And Mr. Seti said, "Well, I'm building the temple because it was destroyed, so I'm building it up." And then this man said, "Oh, you can't do that." And Mr. Seti said, "Oh, yeah, I'm doing it, And then the man said, "Oh, well, if you build that, then tonight I'll send 50 gundas," which means like gangster, hooligan type of people. "I'll send 50 gundas tonight, and they'll destroy it all." And then Mr. Seti told his son, I don't know if I said this the other day in class, maybe I did, I don't know, but maybe I was just telling someone, but Mr. Seti said to his son, he said, "Brij Mohan," he said, "bring my rifle and my revolver." And then he told that guy, he was telling it right in front of that guy, and he told that guy, he said, "I have 250 cartridges. So he said, you're going to have to bring 251 men, tonight." That's what he told him. So then the guy, I don't know, didn't really say what he responded with, but, So then Mr. Seti was up building all night at the temple. Building. And all the devotees were up. Our spiritual master, he was up. One devotee, Sridhar Swami, Prabhupada's disciple, he was there, and he was in the van. I'm not a van, he was in the Jeep, just kind of hanging out, because they didn't know, these guys were going to come or not. They thought they were going to come, these 50 gundas. So Sridhar Swami was in the Jeep, with chanting japa. And I guess he had like a few weapons with him and stuff. And then they asked Sridhar Swami, they said, "Hey Sridhar Swami, why are you in the Jeep?" He said, "Well, if they come, I can make a quick getaway, in the Jeep." So anyways, and it was raining, so Mr. Seti was building. So now all of a sudden, they hear this guy come up. And and this guy comes up, and then Mr. Seti says to this guy, he says, because he was kind of like a kshatriya, like a warrior type, but he's a devotee. So Mr. Seti said to this guy who came on the property, he said, "If you come on this property, I'm going to shoot you." That's what he told him. Yeah, he said, "I'm going to shoot you." So then the guy, he kind of got freaked out, and then he walked back, and then Mr. Seti and devotees heard him talking with other people, some other guys who came with him. They said, "Oh, hey, don't go on the property, they're serious, they're, don't mess with them." So, anyways, so in this way, this was a particular case, and then they built the temple, and it all worked out eventually. But so this is a particular case in which anger was used properly. He was fired up, and Prabhupada appreciated it. Prabhupada actually talked about it later. He said, "Oh, our Mr. Seti, he was, he's like a kshatriya, and he was defending the temple and the devotees." So he actually appreciated it quite a lot. Prabhupada. But in general, a lot of devotees don't have to operate like that. It's not that it gives us license to just, lash out and use our anger. But when needed, devotees could use their anger. So examples, Hanuman, Arjuna, and there's so many others. But in general, devotees, they tolerate for themselves. But yeah, these people were after Krishna and the devotees, therefore Mr. Seti was defending. But if it's for ourselves, then yeah, generally we tolerate. Although one time Prabhupada was asked, he said, what if somebody attacks you? What will you do? So of course sometimes we say, oh, well, it's just Krishna's, arrangement, maybe I'm supposed to be attacked, and they just kind of tolerate it. But then Prabhupada one time said, why am I going to let some rascal damage Krishna's property, which means his body? So if some person comes, why am I going to let some rascal damage Krishna's body? So that was one case, he said that. So then Prabhupada talks about Jesus Christ, and said, who had enemies, and they crucified him. So he said the demonic are always present, and they find fault even in saintly persons. So yeah, they found fault in Jesus Christ, and they crucified him. But interesting enough, he was praying for their welfare. So he was praying to God, which I don't know how some Christians get around that. Because some Christians, they say that Jesus Christ is God. Actually, a lot of them, more and more as the time goes. Because he's on the cross and he's praying to God. I mean, he's saying, dear Father, forgive them for, they're fools and rascals and they don't know what they're doing. Please forgive them. Have mercy on them. Don't punish them because they're punishing me. But I don't know how some Christians get around that. It's like, okay, who is he praying? He's praying to God, himself. But he is God? Like, I don't understand. So there, some say he's God, absolutely, and some say he's the Son of God, which Prabhupada accepted, and most people accept that. Some people say, oh, he's like simultaneously one and different, God and the Son, at the same time, which also makes sense. But absolutely God, I mean, who is he praying to then? There's so many cases of him praying. Anyways, so he prayed for their welfare. So Haridas Thakur also was beat in 22 marketplaces. He prayed for their welfare. So this is what devotees do. So in our own little way, I mean, someone may not try to crucify us, God forbid, right? We'll hope not. And someone may not try to beat us up or et cetera, etc. But they may do something to us, say something to us, wrong us in certain ways. So in our own little way, I mean, if Jesus Christ being crucified could pray for their welfare, and if Haridas Thakur, who's being beat to death, an ordinary man would have been killed, if he could pray for their welfare, we could also pray for others' welfare. Because they're not doing such a severe thing to us. So we should be able to pray for their welfare. I mean, it's not much to ask in consideration of Haridas Thakur and Jesus Christ. So at least we, in our own little way, we could try to follow them. So yeah, Dhruva Maharaj is now advised to talk to Kuvera and other personalities so he could beg their forgiveness, and they could, for killing all those yakshas and personalities, and pacify them. So in the next chapter, we'll start on Wednesday, because Tuesday, tomorrow, Dharma Sage is going to talk about Ramanujacharya, the whole class, so no verse tomorrow. And then on Wednesday we'll start chapter 12, Dhruva Maharaj goes back to Godhead. So does anyone have any questions or comments?
A devotee once said there's two types of people. Those that give
the cheaters and the cheated? I'm just joking.
Those that give happiness where they go, and those that give happiness when they go.
That's pretty good. We have a lot of two different types of people. So there's cheaters and the cheated. There's the devotees and the non-devotees. There's the... those who I have surpassed, and those who I have not surpassed yet. You have the rich and the poor. You have the Democrats and the Republicans, which don't like each other. So there's a lot of two different types of people. But yeah, I like this one. This is good. Those who give happiness wherever they go, and those who, what is it?
Those that give happiness
When they go. So when they leave, oh man, I'm so happy this guy's gone. It's just like really causing trouble. Well, you want to be in the first category.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's like being a source of dread for others. I mean, I always tried to follow the philosophy of like, whatever I happen to be going through in my life, I just try not to dump it on others and take it out on others. Not exactly dump it on others, because sometimes it's necessary to reveal your mind to certain persons, not everybody, about certain things. But what I mean is like, not take it out on others. And that's like so common in the world. People just love taking it out on others. I mean, they have a hard time at work, and they go. It's, I don't know if I made this up or if it's actually philosophy, but I call it. I know it's actually quite graphic and not nice, but I call it kick the dog philosophy. And you have a really hard time at work, everything's going, and you just go back and you just take it out, and you just kick your dog. The dog's, what is the dog going to do? I mean, of course, the dog may try to attack you, something, but or they take it out on their family members. I mean, there's so much abuse nowadays. They get physical with people. They get angry. So this is anger too. They're not controlling. So there's difficulties, there's hardships, but you're not supposed to take it out on others. Verbally, I mean, you should try your best, even not to let people know that you're even undergoing the difficulties, because it's just going to depress them. So best is just try to, not that you're bottling it up, but you're not letting it kind of go out into the atmosphere. So I always tried to do that in my life. But it takes, you actually have to be controlled to do that. I mean, you can't just, because the general tendency is like, you're struggling, you're suffering, and all right, well, like, sometimes people do that. They come up and they're undergoing some problems, and they can't control it. So I mean, if we can't control it, okay, fine. But the point is to try to. It's not that we're evil if we can't, but we should try to. So everybody needs some relief. So therefore, we chant Hare Krishna. We associate with devotees. We engage in devotional process. Then we feel some relief. Or else it's very difficult. The world's very difficult without that relief. Kirtan, it's a big relief actually. Put your arms up in the air. Dance, chant, shout, scream, spin around, jump up and down. It's actually great relief. So, all right, so we'll remember that. There's two types of people. Does anyone have any other questions? All right. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.